Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for the session where we will be looking at skills collaboration and the transition to net zero. I'm Jim Brown, Director at ESP, and I'll apologise in advance as you'll see quite a bit of me in one of my various roles. ESP is a collaboration of Scotland's colleges and industry partners established to increase the capability and capacity to deliver the right skills for the energy, engineering and construction sectors. And we can't do this in isolation. To achieve this, we work with government and agencies, colleges, and, ever importantly, industry. We engage in influence. We work with colleges to develop capability and capacity. And as I've said already, we can't do this in isolation. We can only do this through working in partnerships and collaborations. So absolutely perfect for this session today. In this session, we will explore policy drivers, industry leadership, cross-sector collaborations, how we're inspiring the future workforce, and the collective college response. And we will review that activity across the energy transition, which is this session, advanced manufacture, low carbon transport, and construction, energy efficiency and microgeneration. At this stage, I'd like to focus on ESP and our vision. Our vision is of a college sector that meets national and regional skills needs, maximising investment and job opportunities aligned with emerging technologies, the climate emergency, and the just transition to net zero. At this stage, I'd like to thank all our partners and the team for all their contributions and efforts before handing you over to Elaine Ellis of SDS, who will provide an overview of the Climate Emergency Skills Action Plan, who will then be followed by me again, explaining the role of the Scottish Offshore Wind Energy Council, for which ESP are the skills lead. Then we'll pick up from John MacDonald of APITO, who will explain the work of the Energy Skills Alliance in supporting the energy transition. Then Wendy Finlay, who will explain the role and the work that's going on in inspiring the future workforce. And finally, Roddy Scott of ESP, who will give an overview of the college response. So thank you for joining us, and I'll hand you over now to Elaine. Thank you, and enjoy this afternoon. Bye.
Delighted to be here today to introduce the Climate Emergency Skills Action Plan. I'm here today as part of the team in SDS with responsibility for implementation of the plan, which we name the CSAP. The Scottish Government was the first government in the world to declare a climate emergency back in 2019. It has made a commitment to be at net zero by 2045, although we're aiming for a 75% reduction by 2030. The move to net zero economy will impact across all sectors of the economy and across society. In order to be able to embrace the changes ahead and to be able to meet those targets, it's absolutely essential that we have the skilled workforce to do so. And that is both about training new talent, but also about upskilling and retraining the existing workforce. Certainly the climate emergency can't be seen in isolation, and there is the added challenge that COVID has brought. There's the challenge of demographics, Brexit, and also the sort of changes as a result of digitalisation and automation. It is one of the biggest challenges is to understand what we mean by green jobs and skills. We are talking about transformational change, and I think that as of yet, there's not necessarily the understanding of that level of change across society. But it is about making sure that we do have the opportunities to create these new quality green jobs, that we're able to take part in global markets and have access to global markets and that Scottish businesses can grow. But it's also about looking at the unique nature of our regions and making sure that there's great opportunities within regions for growth, and that we are able to have enhanced access to nature and an environment. And it is about a just transition at the back of this, and about making sure that the individuals across Scotland benefit from these moves to net zero. Understanding what green jobs are is not easy, and certainly at the very start it is about getting a working definition of what we mean by green jobs. As of yet, there's not an official definition. There's various definitions in place, and certainly one that we tend to use in terms of the green jobs workforce academy. It is about those roles that help benefit in terms of the transition to net zero, and produces goods and services that benefit the transition to net zero, or it is about those roles that help transform industries and support industries as they adapt to low carbon future. We have created within the CSAP sort of 3 main categories of green job. One is about those new and emerging roles, for example, those in sort of hydrogen cell technician example, but many of these roles we don't yet know what they are, and they will become clearer as we move into the future. There is those existing roles where it is about enhanced skill and it's about changing the skill set of those in the roles. For example, architects, environmental consultants is an example there. And there's also those roles that we will need in greater numbers, and those involved in insulation installers, as an example, energy assessors, and certainly these categories do interlink. Within the CSAP, one of the things that we did do is we wanted to make sure that we worked from a solid evidence base, and we did do research to look to see where the opportunities for growth were. And while it will impact across all sectors, it was very clear that some sectors were more critical at this point than others, and because of the sort of policy and opportunities, there are some sectors will very much lead the charge. Those sectors that are absolutely vital are those within the energy transition, so the move away from oil and gas as of high carbon to low carbon ways of generating sort of electricity and power. There's the construction, certainly within construction, there's a huge piece of work around retrofitting our existing housing and non-residential properties, but also about changing the processes within the construction industry. Transport, as we moved to more sustainable ways of transport, and manufacturing, and also agriculture and land use are areas where we're seen as opportunities for growth and areas where we needed to lead change. However, the CSAP is a moving, breathing document, and even since the time that this was published, was back in the end of 2020, other sectors have been added in as vital. So we have also added in life and chemical sciences, and we're starting to do more focus on that area, and the importance of the circular economy is captured there as well. The Climate Emergency Skills Action Plan was a commitment within the programme of government for 2019. It is a key commitment within Scotland's broader climate change plan, and it includes immediate actions to support a green recovery. Although SDS coordinated and wrote the plan, it certainly was not developed in isolation, and it's a document that was very much all about a partnership approach. We worked with colleagues at Scottish Government across the sort of various skills agencies, across education, including further and higher education, and directly with ESP. We worked with partners such as Zero Waste Scotland and many others, but absolutely critical in terms of the partnership approach was the work that we've done with industries, and what part of the consultation was to work directly with those industries that had been highlighted within the research as critical at this point. And we went out directly to skills groups, to employers, to those that work directly with the industry, to work with them to identify the landscape in terms of net zero, to understand the challenges, to understand the opportunities, and to understand the steps that we need to take in order to help these industries transition and move towards net zero. Evidence-led approach was absolutely at its heart, and one of the sort of challenges and focus moving forward is to continue to build on that evidence base. And even although the sectors are all very different and in many ways seem like they would have very little in common, in practice it was the same challenges and it was the same core issues that sat at the back of each of them. So some of the sort of key areas, it was about the amount of unknowns. There is still, although we know that we're moving in this direction and that there's a bit broad policy that will take us there, and there's so many opportunities, there is still many unknowns in terms of the timing, in terms of the pipeline. There is still great sort of change as a result of technology and innovation, which will be absolutely at the heart of this. But what it does mean that in terms of skills planning, being able to cope to and adapt with change becomes absolutely critical. We will need to pivot our provision in this direction, and increasingly right across further education, higher education, across private training providers, pivoting provision so that it supports move to net zero and helps provide the skilled workforce that we need will be absolutely critical. What also became sort of clear within the consultations is that there is going to need to be support beyond the sort of immediate industries. It is about helping prepare those wider networks and those people that can help drive change, for example, those involved in procurement or those change makers across society. But it is also about that education of the general public. And despite climate emergency being a very high profile issue, the knowledge of what that means in practice and how that will impact people's lives and the opportunities as a result is not yet widely known. It is within the action plan. What we have started to do is capture a route map and an approach that we can take to help build those skills and create the ecosystem that we need in order to move towards net zero. Certainly within SDS, some of the key measures that we've sort of mentioned right at the start is we've launched a Green Jobs Workforce Academy that is there to support individuals, and we're working with Zero Waste Scotland to establish a Green Job and Skills Hub that is there to support employers and industries understand the changes that they need to make. For us, it will be very much about maximising the uptake of apprenticeships and green jobs and developing new work-based learning pathways. These, again, although we have got changes underway, all of these changes are very much at the start, and there's going to be a constant evolution as we sort of move and adapt as we all work towards meeting net zero. The action plan in the end did settle within key themes. So there's 6 key themes within the action plan, and it was identified as 5 implementation priorities. The publication of the plan is just a start. An industry leadership group was formed to support the plan. And today you will have the opportunity to hear about some of the excellent work that's getting done with ESP and with partners to start to drive change, to start to help support meet some of the themes that are there, including developing the future workforce, but also helping support reskilling and upskilling of our existing workforce. Thank you for having me here today.
Hello everyone, I'm now joining you with my SOEC skills hat and want to give an overview of the work of SOEC, the Scottish Offshore Wind Energy Council, and the Skills Group, and how it will support the skills transition. SOEC's vision and goals were co-developed between industry and Scottish Government in 2019, and these have recently been reviewed, and I really just want to give you an overview of these revisions. So the revised vision is of a world-class offshore wind sector that underpins the transition to net zero by 2045 and maximises the value to Scotland. That's really, really important to me and to the skill system. Our mission is to coordinate and grow the sector, ensuring that Scottish offshore wind industry is more sustainable, competitive and commercially attractive both domestically and in the global offshore wind market. As well as reviewing the mission and the vision, we've also reviewed the goals of the Scottish Offshore Wind Energy Council. The ambitions increased a little bit. It's gone from a target of 9 gigawatts, so the new goals will deliver 11 gigawatts of fixed and floating offshore wind in Scottish waters by 2030. And that's a considerable shift from the original 9, and a considerable shift in the fact that it's focusing on the floating offshore wind sector as well. The second goal is to establish Scotland as a world-class offshore wind sector at the leading edge of technology and innovation. Really, really important. Driving excellence in efficiency, productivity, safety and sustainability. And the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult has a real role to play in this, and they're the skills leads on this goal. The third goal is of a transformational and rapid increase in economic value, delivering a world-class supply chain in Scotland. Key ambition, if we're to meet that ambition, to increase the Scottish content in offshore wind farms and maximise the economic benefits to be gained by Scotland as a nation, and supporting the companies in the supply chain across the whole breadth of jobs that are in the industry. The fourth is to develop a highly skilled and diverse workforce to support new entrants, expand apprenticeships, and very importantly, enable transitioning from existing sectors, whilst not losing sight that we need to inspire the future talent pipeline as well. So the whole STEM careers advice and guidance is really central to this too. The fifth goal is a new goal, is championing floating and fixed offshore wind contribution to achieving Scotland's net zero commitment by 2045, incorporating the oil and gas transition, focus on hydrogen and wider energy system integration. And this is really, really important because the lines are blurring across the different types of energy, and it's going to be critical to get the mix right if we're to achieve our 2045 targets. And we'll be picking this up through the other presentations throughout this afternoon. So from a skills perspective, the SOEC Skills Group has a number of priorities itself. The first one is to understand the skills demand. And this is really important, and we can't do this in isolation. So SOEC is working with developers, the OEMs, the supply chain groups and Scottish clusters to understand the skills demand across the offshore wind sector in Scotland. And we're utilising customised offshore wind industry council's investment and talent group workforce planning model. And I think that's really key because it shows Scotland's space in the UK. It's a huge player in that space with a large proportion of the offshore wind developments taking place in Scottish waters. So we've been working very closely with the investment talent group and the planning model with Skills Development Scotland to make sure that this is aligned. We're also looking to work with Scotland skills providers to ensure a comprehensive provision to meet offshore wind skills needs, and Roddy Scott will give an overview of the college response to that later in this session. The third priority is around promoting Scotland's unique skills offer to developers, OEMs and supply chain. We probably haven't maximised the opportunity for this in the past, but we really want to maximise the future opportunities there, and making sure that developers, OEMs and the supply chain are supported, are informed to be able to make decisions and judgments around how they develop, recruit and train their existing and future workforce. Another very important area is ensuring a diverse workforce. So we will be looking at the wider diversity agenda as well as the gender and the ethnic minority groupings. So that's really good work already going on there and developing best practice guides. We're looking to take that a stage further. And the final one for the skills piece is the UK alignment. And we've already touched on the work with the Offshore Wind Industry Council's Investment and Talent Group. So that has been very important. We sit on the OEC Investment Talent Group, and the OEC Investment Talent Group lead sits on the SOEC Skills Group. And the other one that is really important is the Energy Skills Alliance, which is a UK collaboration that's looking to maximise that oil and gas transition and ensure that the four nations benefit and deliver the net zero targets, but we have obviously a specific focus on Scotland and our interests. So in summary, it's all about maximising Scottish input and job creation, and SOEC really provides an opportunity to engage across the wind industry, to engage and influence, support the development of capability and capacity in the education and skills sector, and we can only deliver through partnerships and collaboration. So this is really important for me as a skills lead, but also for me as the director of ESP. And again, Roddy Scott will say a bit more about the work in that space. So thank you for your time this afternoon. I hope you found it quite informative, and I'll now hand you over to Wendy Finlay, who will give an overview of the work in support of the inspiring and attracting the future talent. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.
The ultimate goal of the Energy Skills Alliance is to create skills for a net zero future and to reduce barriers in and across the industry to allow people to move freely across from nuclear to wind, back to oil and gas as they wish. At the heart of this is about people, and we need the workforce to be comfortable and feed into this journey that we're about to embark on. The Energy Skills Alliance is a coming together of bodies, people who have expertise and interest in skills in energy. We've started off with 4 strands of work. skills supply and demand is really an underpinning part of this work. People are saying, can we be retrained for this sector or that sector? Yes, but before we do that, we need to understand where the jobs lie, in which sectors and in which areas within those sectors. So we need a really accurate piece of research to support our decisions on training and reskilling. So inspiring the future is really important, and My Energy Future has been a great success to date. We've brought this together under one umbrella. And instead of telling young people, oh, this industry is great, we've made it their story. It's young people telling other young people about why they came into the industry, what they see as their future there, what skills they needed. For me, apprentices are the lifeblood. They're the pipeline of talent for our future. In oil and gas, as well as in renewables, we have existing, robust, useful programs. What if we could take the best of those programs and create a broader apprenticeship, which would mean that people could move from one part of the sector to another fairly easily? And that's the work that's going on at the moment. We're at a point now where the group's starting to write units and they'll be testing them in the marketplace. Common standards. This is a really important area, all about removing the barriers so that the workforce can move from one sector to another. There are concerns from the workforce about duplicating their training. The next step is then to map the standards of the various bodies. If I train in nuclear and I want to move to oil and gas, which parts of my training will be recognised? What does the top-up look like? How will it be delivered? Who pays for that? Or could we look at a plan to align more closely as we move forward? The final outcome of that could be an industry-wide skills passport system. So with the North Sea Transition Deal coming into effect, PETO has been asked to develop a people and skills transition plan. Now, what will that look like? The 4 strands with Energy Skills Alliance will converge and appear within this plan. So this plan needs to be a roadmap for the way forward. It needs to be concise, it needs to have very clear outcomes, and it needs to show accountability. We're working with industry, trade unions, and other parties, consult appropriately as well before we publish in spring of next year. A call to action for the industry, the broader industry, energy. I'm a strong believer that by working together, we can obtain more effective and enduring results.
Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Wendy Finlay, ESP Programme Manager for STEM. So Wendy, the Scottish STEM strategy was launched in 2017. What has ESP's involvement been in support of the strategy?
Well, ESP sit on the STEM strategy steering group, which early on in the development of the strategy realised that the approach needed to be regional, that the needs in Fort William are not the same as Glasgow and Edinburgh. They were looking for a coordinator who had good links to local industry and also to schools, and therefore it was identified very, very quickly that the colleges were ideally situated to help head up these STEM partnerships. And we also chair the quarterly meeting, the STEM Leads Forum, where these partnerships get together to discuss challenges and share a bit of best practice.
And can you explain what a STEM partnership does and who's involved at a local level and inspire the next generation of the workforce? Sure.
So we've explained the colleges coordinate the partnership, but the partnership involves anyone who is a key figure in STEM in the local area. So that could be universities, it could be local industries. The Education Scotland are heavily represented because of their links to schools and local authority. So we have the primary science development officers, the regional STEM officers, and the improving gender balance and equality officers as well as developing the young workforce and Skills Development Scotland.
That's great. And can you give an example of an initiative that has had an impact on young people?
Yeah, there's a number of initiatives that have run. A good example I think of directly from the STEM partnership is the Career and Lifelong Professional Learning platform that has been set up on Globe by the West Lothian Partnership. So heavily supported by Education Scotland, but with input from DYW's industry partners. So there's talks on there based on the local sectors that are key to each region. There's resources on there that teachers can borrow, or whether it's just lesson plans that are in there. And the college, again, has information in there about routes into these sectors through the local colleges. And that's proven really, really popular with the teachers, and it has that local feel by identifying the key industries.
And finally, what do you see as the major challenge for our transition from oil and gas?
I think with oil and gas, there's it's the influencers that are our key target, because young people might come home and say, oh, you know, I fancy going offshore, and the parents may say, well, there's no jobs there, and there needs to be an understanding that there will still be jobs for a number of years to come. But more importantly, that any skills that young people learn to get into the industry are fully transferable into any engineering career for the rest of their lives. I myself have worked in 3 different sectors and didn't need much retraining to move between them.
Well, thanks, Wendy. Thanks for taking part in the session.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Roddy Scott, ESP Sector Manager for Engineering. This session will focus on the work ESP has undertaken by way of a college response to oil and gas transition training. As you've already heard, our wind training network was established in 2012 with an identified need for onshore wind technicians and involved colleges in Ayrshire, Dumfries and Galloway and Fife regions. The Wind Technician programme was developed involving close collaboration with the wind industry players in Scotland at that time. The collaboration of 3 colleges allowed a standardised delivery with between 60 to 70 candidates per year entering the workforce. Around 2018-19, in consultation with key stakeholders, we decided to expand our wind training network to 7 colleges. The additional colleges are based on projected offshore wind activity in the Moray Firth and North Sea to align with the offshore wind clusters, Deep Wind in the north and Forth Day cluster on the east coast of Scotland. A further recent addition has been Shetland College to include future planned activity around the Shetland Isles. Like any organisation, staff resources are tight in colleges, and the key to developing and continually improving the Wind Technician programme has been collaboration across our college network, where the workload has been divided up. All our teaching curriculum is used as a shared resource across the network, giving a standardised approach, and this is a key advantage for industry as the same course materials are used across Scotland. We have several industry standard training resources and equipment that you can see on the right hand side of the slide, and these offer hands-on using hydraulic torquing equipment, using laser alignment equipment, the same as would be experienced as working in the industry. ESP has recently developed an online awareness course focusing on the offshore wind industry, aimed at giving an insight into the industry, for example, the need to work at height in confined spaces, and the requirement for seaboat transfer to offshore work sites. Over the last 3 years, we've worked to have colleges accredited with the Global Wind Organisation, with a focus to deliver basic technical training across that network. This is the industry standard for working on turbines, so quite important. Sector attractiveness is an integral part of our training networks across ESP, with industry and key partners such as developing the young workforce all involved. With the current situation of the pandemic, we've developed a range of college and industry video clips highlighting career opportunities and STEM pathways through college courses and apprenticeships. Now let's focus on transition training from oil and gas. The transition training is aimed at personnel transitioning from oil and gas into the wind sector. As always, industry has been involved in our approach to developing and delivering courses. Our focus here has been developing an online self-assessment tool to allow potential entrants to gain an insight into the offshore wind industry and add in their qualifications and experience before being signposted to training. The aim is to have a blended learning approach for much of the programme and allow some hands-on training at college where we can. The Global Wind Organisation is the industry standard, and the programme will be made up of the basic technical training, basic safety training, plus further top-ups if required from the self-assessment results.